Hi guys, good evening. Welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie. I hope you all had a very safe and fun Halloween last night. It was a great night for me. Went out to a party with some friends, had a few drinks. Overall, it was a very fun, safe night. I hope you all had a good time too. And I hope you all enjoyed tonight's episode of The Walking Dead, which I'm about to review and recap. And of course, as usual, with all of my review and recap videos for all of the series that I follow. Do not continue watching or listening to this video as I will be going into big spoilers. So if you're not caught up on Walking Dead this season or past couple episodes, don't keep watching or listening as you will have many things ruined for you. So you have been warned. That being said, this was a very good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. It was nice to get a backstory on Morgan. I didn't think we would get it so early in the season. I saw this episode being maybe like episode 5 or 6. I was surprised, after watching last week's episode, and I hope you're all recovered from it as I am. Well, at least I think I am. Although I still think that, spoiler alert, Glenn is dead. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to be crude, but I'm pretty sure he's gone, unfortunately. Anyway, after watching last week's episode, they showed the promos for tonight's episode, which was, mostly clips of Morgan. And we're like, okay, so this is Morgan's backstory episode, his little spin-off, so to speak. I thought we would be getting this, maybe towards, like I said, episode 5 or 6. But no, they're getting right into it. And there's probably a good reason for that. And you know what? Whatever that reason is, I don't really care, because overall I enjoyed it, and this episode had to happen anyway. What I really liked about it was that, we see this man, this broken man who's lost everything, and the only thing that keeps him going is killing. He continues to constantly kill walkers and humans. Like, he was going to be ambushed by these two survivors, this man and his son. Morgan, with his sharp pointy stick, stabbed the man in the throat, killed him right away, and then strangled the boy to death. And, he just keeps muttering these phrases and these words to himself. He keeps spray painting clear to himself. And, he keeps writing stuff on rocks and walls like pointless acts. He continues to slaughter walkers, and he continues to burn them every single night. It's like the only thing that kept him going was killing, which is really scary and sad. Like, this man had lost so much, and the only thing he could think to do with himself was to kill. Much like what he told Rick way back in season 3, I have to clear. And that's what he tells Eastman, this man whom he stumbles upon in the woods. He finds his cabin, thinks about stealing and killing his goat, but the man takes him hostage after thumping him right in the face with a walking stick. Turns out this guy's name is Eastman, and wouldn't you know it, he used to be a forensic psychiatrist for the state of Georgia. Used to live in Atlanta, and he was basically a guy who could determine as to whether or not people who have done truly horrific, terrible things are fit enough to be released back into society or stay in prison. So how perfect. You get stuck with a shrink during the apocalypse, and that is absolutely perfect for somebody like Morgan, because this guy right away says, you're suffering from PTSD. I've talked to and seen a lot of people who suffer from PTSD, and you're definitely one of them. And Morgan keeps telling him to kill him. He doesn't even want to be left alive or kept a hostage. He just wants him to kill him, because, he's just so... He's just so in his head. And what I loved about this episode was that whenever it was like Morgan's first person perspective, the camera, our view became a bit distorted and kind of cloudy almost, as if, like, a good way to describe it, when I first saw that happening, it was like, it feels like there's this pulse in Morgan's head that's going mm, 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 mm. And that's like what was being reflected on the screen. Is like we saw what was like the throbbing in Morgan's mind and his head as we saw him do all these first person perspectives, like killing walkers, his first fight with Eastman, stuff like that. And it's like, man, this guy is carrying so much pain. But what I loved about this episode was that even though The Walking Dead isn't really a show that teaches you morals and values. I mean, in a sense it does, but it's not a show like, say, Sesame Street, where, you know, they're constantly teaching kids about the do's and do nots and stuff like that. This episode had a very strong, important lesson, in my opinion. You can turn pain into strength. That is exactly what Eastman did, and that is what he taught Morgan. You turn pain into strength, because he recognized Morgan was carrying a tremendous amount of pain and self-loathing on his part, and he taught him to channel that through this martial art called I can't talk. Aikido, yeah, he called it Aikido. It's this form of balance in martial arts, where it's like you can learn to defend yourself to disable your opponent, but you never ever kill. Basically, this guy is the one who helps Morgan adapts this whole philosophy of no killing. You can defend yourself and you can kill walkers. Anybody can kill walkers, and you shouldn't have to feel bad about it, because walkers are already dead. But this guy really, really gets to Morgan. And I think what helps Morgan realize that he can come back from this darkness, this dark path of self-destruction that he was currently going down until he met this guy, when he realized that this guy was able to turn his life and mentality around after he has carried so much tremendous pain himself, and after losing his entire family to this psychopath who had manipulated his way out of the legal system and targeted this guy's family specifically because of him, because he could see through his facade that he was a real psychopath, and he could see through the charming, you know, charismatic guy that he was. I'm like, dude, where were you when our characters first met the governor? We could have used you when we first went to Woodbury. I mean, why weren't you with Andrea and Michonne? But no, it was just the Morgan recognized how this guy was able to turn around from after coming back from such a horrific tragedy. And that realization, I think, is what helped Morgan realize, I can come back from this. I can turn my life around. You know, I don't have to constantly be endlessly killing walkers and people. Like, I can like live in a peace of, like, I can have a peace of mind and bring balance back to my life. And, you know, that's when he starts teaching him Aikido, using the walking stick. They go through all the training. You know, they kill walkers, and if they ID them, they write their names on these pieces of wood and they bury them in the little cemetery he has near his cabin. And, you know, this was, you know, I found myself actually choking up a little bit towards the end of this episode when, you know, Eastman saves Morgan after he temporarily zones out from realizing the walker that's coming at them is the same young man that Morgan strangled to death earlier in the episode, because he killed his father by staking him through the neck, and he strangled the younger guy to death, and it's the same guy who's now a walker. And Morgan just freezes in just you know, in this horrible realization. He's like, as if he's going to let this walker attack him. But Eastman pushes him out of the way, turns his back, and the walker unfortunately gets him right in the back, bites him, you know, briefly in the back, and then, you know, Eastman is able to kill it right away. Morgan starts to lose it again, and you're like, oh, god damn it, really? After all this time, after all this training and this living and staying with Eastman, he's now reverted to his old ways. They lead you to believe that, but unfortunately that's not the case. And of course, poor Eastman, this super nice guy who took Morgan in, fed him, and didn't even lock the door to his little cell, is now infected and is going to die. And this scene was so emotional because Morgan starts breaking down, demanding that Eastman kills him again. Eastman's trying to fight the tears, hold back his tears and his raw emotion. There's just so much raw emotion in that scene between the two of them. Right after Eastman was bitten, I just started to kind of choke up, because I'm like, God, you know, it's like these two have become so close, and now one of them is definitely going to die, and the other one can't stand the thought of losing his only friend. the only friend he's, well, not his only friend, but at that time, at that period of time, the only friend he has, the only other survivor who's with him, and he's about to lose him. And he probably resorted back to all that screaming about, here's not here, pointless acts of saving people, and stuff like that, because the guilt, the regret, and the feeling of loss for another person started to started to settle in again, because he's going to lose his friend who has brought him so much and brought him back from the brink, and now he's going to lose him. He's going to die. And then Eastman tells this heartbreaking story, like I mentioned earlier, about he was a forensic psychiatrist for the state who interviewed psychopaths and horrible people on a regular basis, and this one particular guy was able to charm his way through the system, except Eastman saw through him. They got into a little fight, and Eastman was able to defend himself and save his life using Aikido, because he actually started using Aikido before the apocalypse, and it was because he needed a source of relief from his job, because his little 5-year-old daughter found him crying his eyes out after 8 beers in the garage, because his job was so incredibly stressful. And that's when she gave him her lucky charm, the rabbit's foot. And of course, we realize this is where Morgan gets his rabbit's foot from Eastman, because he gives it to him right before he dies, after he explains the whole story to Morgan. And and so, like, right after this guy gets out of jail, he goes to Eastman's house, kills his family, and then turns himself into the police, telling him, I only wanted to get out of prison so I can kill this guy's family, so I can hurt him. And, you expect Eastman to say something like, I wanted to kill that son of a bitch so bad. Instead, this unexpected calm just comes over him, and he tells peacefully and calmly to Morgan that all life is precious now. And Morgan's like, even to a man like that, even to such an evil person who has done such evil things. And Eastman simply replies, all life is precious. So if you think about it, Eastman, did die of his bite, of course. But it's like his philosophy and his fundamental beliefs transferred from his inner being, to Morgan. He was able to pass on his personal experience, the sharing, because these two men have both lost their families. They were both carrying tremendous amounts of personal pain and anguish, and they were both able to come back from the darkest places in the human mind, and they were able to turn their lives around, and they gave Morgan a reason to go on living. And, that's where we see Morgan get all of his supplies from, the rabbit's foot, the walking stick, and that's how we see him end up on the tracks. After cutting through the woods, we see him on the tracks, and that's how he ends up going to Terminus. And this is all because of Eastman. Played by the great actor John Carroll Lynch. When the episode first started and there was the opening credits with all the actors' names, I'm like, oh my god, John Carroll Lynch? Is he gonna have a big role in this episode? Is he gonna be some survivor in the background, or will he have a big part? He had a very big part indeed. So overall, this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very emotional, especially in that scene right after Eastman's bitten, and there's the scene between him and Morgan. Very, very good. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of The Walking Dead as much as I did. Don't forget to stay tuned every Sunday night for new episodes on AMC. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel for more upcoming content and videos here on the EdWord. And I hope you guys had a safe and wonderful Halloween. And I hope your November gets off to a good start. And thanks again for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed The Walking Dead as much as I did. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of the night. And, of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.